to episode 17 of Cover Your Balls on Thursday, January 14th. I'm Mitch Jordan.
I'm Jordan McKelly.
That is him.
Every time.
And we are here to cover the biggest divisional footballs there are in the country, the biggest basketballs there are in the country, specifically in the cities of Houston and Brooklyn.
Oh.
We're here to tell you who has the biggest balls, and we'll do that later. But Jordan, before we cover everybody's balls, whether they want us to or not, we're going to do it. It's 4 o'clock, and that can mean only one thing. It's time for our top 4 at 4.
Boom. Mitch, top 4 shows of quarantine. This is the big one. Lead it off.
Well, I need to be honest and transparent with the fans and the listeners today, wherever they're watching or listening, on YouTube, on Facebook Live, on Twitter. Maybe it's Spotify, maybe Apple Podcasts. We don't know. But if you're listening, thank you. And before we get started, make sure you subscribe, like, comment. Tell me how big of an idiot I am. That's okay. I'm used to it. But Jordan, back to our top 4 shows of quarantine. I'm not a big show guy, actually, but I do have 4. And at number 4, what better way to start it off than with a sports show I watched during quarantine, featuring the second greatest basketball player of all time, Michael Jordan. That would be The Last Dance.
Oh,
it was a great show that came out during quarantine. I'm pretty sure everybody got to see it.
I've watched it multiple times already, Mitch.
I have too. It's awesome to go back and see what the second greatest basketball player of all time looks like. That's why I keep going back to watch it.
I mean, I am named after him.
I'm named after LeBron.
No, you're not.
No, I'm not. I'm sorry. I don't mean to lie. All right, number 3, Jordan. I actually just watched more recently The Mandalorian on Disney Plus. I love Star Wars, and let me tell you, The Mandalorian was a banger.
Still haven't watched
it? You need to watch it. That's all there is to it. Who doesn't love some action, some Star Wars, a Baby Yoda? That was phenomenal. Number 2, possibly the greatest show on Netflix, which is Ozark. If you haven't seen Ozark, I don't know what kind of shows you're into, and I'm talking to our listeners right now. It's a must-watch series. If you know anything about my dad, he likes to fall asleep during a lot. He never fell asleep watching Ozark. So that should tell you a lot right there, folks.
I haven't even got through the first episode. I started watching the first episode. I was like, yeah, this is too slow.
Oh, my goodness.
But we'll get there. You keep rolling. I'm sorry.
You need to get there. But at number 1, the greatest show that came out during quarantine, Dave on FX featuring Lil Dicky. I have watched that series now over 3 times. It is a classic. You laugh, it gets a little emotional sometimes. It's just a fun show to watch. Viewer discretion is advised, just putting that out there. But Dave comes in at number 1 on my top 4 shows of quarantine. Jordan, let's get your list.
Yeah, Mitch, this is tough because there was a lot of good shows. Somebody's coming in right now in the live chat and saying, did they end this on accident? Hopefully this is live. It's saying it's live. I know that. This is the problem. I haven't watched this many TV shows in a long time. And just because it was quarantine, I had to watch a lot. This was actually a really hard list to make top 4. I have some honorable mention shows. I have Dash and Lily. I can't believe I have to say the Umbrella Academy is a honorable mention show, but it is. And I like the Outer Banks and Virgin River. Probably not the best shows, but I enjoyed them. All right, top 4. At number 4, I got The Last Dance. Huge Michael Jordan fan. I'm named after Michael Jordan. Number 4. At number 3, I have Tiger King. That was probably the most excited I was. Like, in terms of, early on in quarantine, I was pretty bummed out. I will say, though, that Joe Exotic really turned my life around. Thank you, Joe. I know you're in jail right now, but I appreciate you. At number 2.
Wait, I have a question. Question before you go on to number 2. Did Carol Baskin kill her husband?
Yes, she 100% killed her husband.
Okay. I'm on that. Now that you said Tiger King, that's number 5 on my list. We're only doing 4, but clarifying for the audience, she did indeed kill her husband. Back to you, though.
Yeah. And at number 2, I have The Queen's Gambit. The Queen's Gambit was unbelievable. If anybody watched that show, you wanted to be a professional chess player immediately. It was unbelievable. Acting was impeccable. I would rewatch that show again. Actually, I have. Yeah. At number 1, one of the most crude shows I've ever watched, The Boys. Holy shit. Carl Urban, unbelievable in the show. The Boys is definitely one of my favorite shows, and you cannot show it around kids. Mitch, that is my top 4 at 4. Well, and that's your top 4 at 4.
That's a great top 4 of 4.
Thank
One
you.
of the best we've had. And if people disagree, that's okay. You're allowed to have your own opinion. But when it comes to our show, we're here to tell you our opinions. We're here to cover your balls, and that's what we're going to do today. And Jordan, there's some big things happening throughout sports.
Huge.
We have some players crying because they lost in a game that they couldn't win in football. We'll touch on Chase Claypool later after his newest comments today.
Mm-hmm.
But Jordan, we need to start in the NBA because a monumental blockbuster trade went down yesterday, a 14 trade between the Brooklyn Nets, Indiana Pacers. Somehow our Cleveland Cavaliers got in there, and the Houston Rockets. James Harden is on the move. He finally gets what he wants out of Houston to Brooklyn to form a super team with Kevin Durant and possibly Kyrie Irving. You know, it just depends if he feels like showing up.
I'm sorry. That's how the rest of the league feels right now.
So here we'll give them the facts first before we dive into this. So the Brooklyn Nets receive James Harden.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's the trade for. That's it. The Houston Rockets, and folks, I need you to buckle up for this one because this is a long list of what they got. The Houston Rockets just stole candy from a baby. They got Victor Oladipo from Indiana, Dante Exum from Cleveland, Rodions Kirkus. I don't know how to say his name, so I'm sorry if he's listening. He probably isn't, though. From the Nets.
It's pretty
Brooklyn, 2022 first-round pick, 2024 first-round pick, 2026 first-round pick, Milwaukee Bucks 2022 first-rounder via the Cavs, and then 2021, 2023, 2025, and 2027 first-round pick swaps with Brooklyn, meaning if the Nets have a better pick than Houston, Houston can swap that pick without any questions asked.
It's crazy.
The Pacers are involved here. They get Karis LeVert from Houston, also from Brooklyn. That's why Oladipo went there. Second-round picks that apparently came out from the Cavs. And the Cleveland Cavaliers get center Jared Allen and power forward, small forward, Teron Prince. That's all we know. Those are the facts. Jordan, instant reaction yesterday when you saw this.
Man, Houston hit the jackpot. Christmas came just early. Like, I'm talking about like over 350 days early. Houston needed to get James Harden out of Houston so bad, Mitch, because he was toxic to the culture of Houston. Houston has had a great culture for the last decade. Obviously, they don't have the same GM anymore or the same coach. However, they still have the same owner. I imagine that the culture there, until obviously James realized he couldn't win in Houston, was about it. I cannot imagine how much time it took to put this trade together, because I mean, you just listed all the steps it took in this trade. It was a million steps. It's those other teams that had to come in. I mean, there was no way that Brooklyn and Houston could do a deal one-on-one. Another team had to come in, and two teams came in. And you know what? That tells me that I'm not sure how scary those three are together, because not only did the league let it happen, but two other teams participated in helping Brooklyn supposedly get better. Now, in my opinion, Mitch, I do not believe Brooklyn's better. I believe they're worse. I believe they're a worse playoff team, potentially a better regular season team. In the regular season, you need a lot more points. Not as much defense is played. All three of those guys are offensive machines. But the problem with that is I do not believe Kyrie Irving's sticking around, Mitch. I believe Kyrie Irving is out of here. There is no way you make this trade and bring James Harden into Brooklyn, right, with Kevin Durant, unless you know for a fact that you can get everybody to buy in. Kyrie doesn't buy into anybody but Kyrie, all right? And it's not my opinion, it's fact. Look at everything that he's done. It's unbelievable how uncommitted he is to the game of basketball. I wouldn't be surprised if he retired. There are rumblings of that. I don't know if he is going to retire, but all I know is that he's not going to work in Brooklyn. At all. And I don't think this makes them a better playoff team, Mitch. I'm not sure how you feel about that. But yeah, I don't think they're better. I think they're markedly worse for the playoffs. Defense, you need defense in the playoffs. They're now a worse defensive team. Karis LeVert's out of here. And Dinwiddie, he got hurt a couple weeks ago with his ACL. Oh, he's out for the season now. So, I mean, they have Jeff Green, who is a streaky shooter. They have DeAndre Jordan, whose best days are behind him. I don't believe in the Brooklyn Nets, and it's not because of all the just shenanigans I've watched Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie pull, because I'm not a fan necessarily of prima donnas or any of that. I just truly believe that they're a worse team, and I don't believe they got better, and they're not the best team in the East to me.
I had so many different ways to react to this when this happened. So you covered how you feel about the Nets. So let's take this a different route for me.
Okay.
All this to beat a 36-year-old in his 18th year? Are you kidding me? Are you? And you know what? We've roasted Kawhi Leonard. We have. We've roasted Paul George. How about we roast Kevin Durant, the biggest bitch I've ever seen in the NBA? Whoa. First off, you had a big three in Houston. Russell Westbrook, James Harden, and some people would consider the way Serge Ibaka played off him a big four. I don't count that. Anyways, that's besides the point. You had that there. Made it to the Western Conference Finals. Couldn't get past it. So you blew it up. Kevin Durant has a 3-1 lead in 2016 on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Or with the Oklahoma City Thunder against the Warriors. Chokes it away. The Warriors win the West.
Yep.
He sees the Cavs come back from 3-1 down with the greatest player of all time, LeBron James. And that is there is no debate on that allowed in our show and our live chats. If you do, you suck. That's all there is to it.
Wow.
So Kevin Durant sees that happen and says, well, shit, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough to carry this team. So he goes and joins a 73-win team to form another big three or big four if you count Draymond Green. Kevin Durant wins his 2 championships, 2-time finals MVP, says, oh, I know how to do this now. He goes to the East, get away from LeBron. Gets Kyrie Irving. But what happened last year? Oh, the Lakers still won the finals. And then, the Lakers still got better in the offseason. We said they were the team that improved the best, and that was the defending champions. Yeah. So what did Kevin Durant do? Kevin Durant sat there and said, well, I can't beat them with just Kyrie. Hell, I don't even know if Kyrie knows what basketball is anymore because he doesn't know what he's doing with his life because he's a bum too. Well, let's go get James Harden. Let's go get a guy that I couldn't win with to begin with and see if we can get another go around. Kevin Durant is unbelievably soft. He's soft. I mean, I don't know how many burner accounts he had to try to justify this trade. I don't know what other loopholes he had to jump through, but my God, this is to beat LeBron James at age 36, 18th year. And guess what? They're not even going to get there to face LeBron James. Nope. You're right. This team is not better. They have 3 of the top, depending where you rank them, I'll say top 15 just because I know they're probably above that. 3 of the top 15 players when healthy. 2 of the greatest scorers of our generation in James Harden and Kevin Durant.
Oh, absolutely.
And defense wins championships. They don't know how to play defense. Kyrie Irving doesn't play defense. James Harden, we've seen before, doesn't play defense. I don't think he knows what that word means. And Kevin Durant, he just picks and chooses where he wants to play. They have a great starting 5, but Jordan, by the way, their starting 5, just their starting 5 alone, their payroll is $140 million.
Is that a lot?
Joe Harris. Oh, that's a lot. That's a lot. Joe Harris is making $16 million this year. DeAndre Jordan is the lowest paid of the starting 5, coming in between $10 to $11 million, depending on incentives and whatnot, and how many games he misses. But besides the fact that Kevin Durant's soft, but we all knew this. We knew that when he went to Golden State as a coward. What do you think Kyrie's feeling? Because, Jordan, I'm right there with you. Kyrie left Cleveland because he didn't want to be the second guy, even though LeBron said he was going to hand the keys of the franchise over to him. Kyrie was going to be the guy.
Yep.
Goes to Boston. Doesn't like it there. Him and Brad Stevens don't get along. Young talent. He didn't like it.
Which, how don't you get along with Brad Stevens? Keep going, but that's unbelievable.
I agree with you. That's a story. That's a question for a different time. I know Kyrie's not playing basketball, so maybe we can get him on the show because he has nothing else going on. So we'll dive into that off air. But anyways, goes to Brooklyn to team up with Kevin Durant, who Kevin Durant is better than Kyrie Irving last time I checked as a basketball player. I'm not talking about person or whatever. Calls out LeBron James saying he finally has somebody clutch to play with. Well, they both missed game winners in the same game, so that's just a lie once again. LeBron has the most go-ahead game-winning shots in the league.
Ever. Statistically. Like, it's factual. It's not an opinion. It's factual.
Yeah, it's fact. And then Kyrie has to go get James Harden, which if you ask me, James Harden's a better basketball player than Kyrie Irving. So
not
Kyrie Irving
close.
Kyrie Irving just went to the third option. So
Yeah.
I don't understand what Kyrie Irving's doing here. I think there's a solid chance that either one, he's out of there. I think that Brooklyn Nets made this move to please Kevin Durant, who, let's keep in mind, he signed that max deal, but can opt out after 2 years. This could have blown up in their face if they didn't make a deal to make Kevin Durant happy. And that's exactly what I think this was. And now Kyrie Irving comes back. Congrats.
But it's still going to blow up in their face.
I agree. I think it will too. I really do. Who do they have coming off the bench? Well, you know what? I think I know what happened. I think I know what. Now that I said that, I think Kyrie Irving forgot that Steve Nash is his coach.
Steve Nash is still better than Jeff Green coming off the bench. Right?
What about Amari Stoudemire? Is he? Because I mean, he could. Maybe Kyrie saw those guys and thought, "Oh my God, we have them on our team still." And no, I mean, at this rate, Kyrie has fallen off the end of the flat Earth, and that's all there is to it.
Can I add one thing real quick before we go to, everybody's had that one. Okay, so I used to work with the guy, and I've worked with a ton of different people at a ton of different jobs throughout my life, since I was a paper boy, 15 years. Anywho, everybody knows that one guy who people like, the customers love him, but he's an awful person to work with, right? He's terrible. You're like, how are you friends with this guy? How do you like him? Like, he's an asshole. Like, you see a piece, you see a fraction of what this guy's really like. And the Nets have 3 of them. James Harden's like that. Kyrie Irving's like that. And Kevin Durant's like that, where they're all difficult to work with, and they have all been difficult to work with at different places. Not like it just doesn't make any sense that, like, unless it only makes sense if you plan to flip Kyrie for a couple pieces. But I don't know if in his contract, and I didn't review this before the show, I don't know if there's a no trade clause for Kyrie, but I don't think there is. I mean, it's pretty.
Not that I know of. And if somebody's watching us live right now on Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube and wants to fact check that, please go ahead and we'll give you your credit. But Jordan, to my knowledge too, I don't believe there is a no trade clause on Kyrie's part. Now I could see it in Kevin Durant, but I don't know why you'd trade Kevin Durant. But
you would.
That's besides the fact they gave away the next 7 years of their future. Because what if this blows up? Let's just go hypothetical here. This blows up. Kevin Durant opts out after 2022. He probably goes and teams up with Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and Kyrie's mom or Kyrie's dad. So
coming after moms.
So, like, what is Brooklyn gonna do if this blows up and they have to get rid of all these guys? You're not gonna go there as a free agent because you saw they can't make it work to begin with, right?
No.
And this is the second time now in the past 10 years that they are going to bank their future to win now. Remember when they traded for Paul George and Kevin Garnett and it blew in their face to compete with the Miami Heat? Like, no.
Yeah.
Like, no. Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce with a walker and Joe Johnson, who was just not what he was in Atlanta, was not going to compete with Miami Heat.
No.
Listen, this team is going to compete in the East if they get their shit together. That's the biggest question. If they get their shit together, Jordan, there's no questions asked. Talent-wise, they're the most talented team and the best team in the East. But these are 3 ball-dominant guys who always win basketball. There's only one basketball, unless they changed it. Maybe COVID rules, so there's less. I don't know. Might have to check on that too. This isn't going to work. It's not. You got rid of Karis LeVert, who was a great player off your bench this year. You got rid of Jared Allen, who was a 10-8 player, 22 years old, and Teron Prince, who's a solid wing defender. Keep in mind, this is a team that doesn't play defense. They got rid of all their defenders except DeAndre Jordan. And so this isn't going to work. Listen, I don't know what the Pacers were doing, but I think Victor Oladipo wanted out of there. Like, I want to touch on the other 3 teams too. Oladipo wanted out of there, but he didn't complain and get out of shape and go to McDonald's and eat 5 Big Macs for lunch and then have 10 McChickens for dinner. Like, that's not what he did, like James Harden. He waited, and the Pacers rewarded him for being patient and traded him away and got Karis LeVert and a pick in return. If you're the Pacers, you win. I don't know how the Cavs got involved in this. I really don't. It makes no sense. They have to have the biggest team in NBA history now.
Well,
I think we have. What?
Don't you think it's obvious why the Cavs got involved? The Cavs aren't done screwing Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving left early when he should not have. If I'm Dan Gilbert, and Dan Gilbert is not a guy who just, hey, if a player, wants his way, he doesn't just give him his way. I mean, he even bumped heads with LeBron. How many times? And LeBron is the king. You know what I mean? There is no other player more powerful in the league and on their teams. I mean, there's no other player who's gotten people fired like that. The Cavs, they end up with Jared Allen, and they get to, let Kyrie Irving know that there's trouble up in Brooklyn. You gotta better start practicing. Better stop going to birthday parties, or else you're not going to be there, and you're going to get to watch everybody else continue to win titles.
I agree. And the thing is, Kyrie Irving will not be playing for the next 2 weeks if he decides to come back and remember what basketball is, strictly because the league will dictate when he comes back. You mentioned going to birthday parties. That film came out. He was there at a party with over 10 people, no mask. He will lose $400,000 per game he doesn't play. So, yeah.
Whoa.
Sounds like a lot to us, but when you're making $39 million a year, I guess it's really not.
Whoa, that is a lot of money.
So, and there's nothing he can do about it. And then the Nets can also further suspend him. Jordan, one thing I want to bring up before we move on is, you know who Brian Windhorst is. Everybody know who Brian Windhorst is. He's pretty much been the personal NBA reporter of LeBron James since he was at St. Vincent St. Mary's in Akron. He was on the radio today when I was listening to him, and us as Cavs fans know damn well. We know David Blatt didn't take us to the finals. We know Tyronn Lue didn't win us the finals as head coach. We know that David Griffin, I'm going to give his credit to because he made some phenomenal trades.
100%.
We know Kobe Altman didn't make some of those deals. And we know who the coach and GM of the team was, LeBron James. And Brian Windhorst said today on ESPN radio that was true. He said, but if you thought it was bad when LeBron was running the team, he said Brooklyn would make LeBron James look like he never did anything wrong. Yeah. He said it's a mess in Brooklyn.
Yeah, I mean, what do you expect when you get in bed with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving? And, I don't want to sit here and shit on Kevin Durant,
I will.
Kevin Durant doesn't, a lot of the things that have bothered me about Kevin Durant aren't really that bad compared to Kyrie Irving. They're really not even bad compared to James Harden. In fact, I respect Kevin Durant much more than James Harden and Kyrie, just even based off how James Harden handled that in Houston. He handled it like a child. And children aren't supposed to make, $40 million a year. So,
I agree. Just the only other facts that we have right now are stocks and strip clubs in Brooklyn and New York have rose since the trade was announced. And as you see, I have a fact right here today. I brought out a new thing for our show, Jordan. I'll start having facts back here. And if you can read it, if not, I'll read it to you if you're listening to us through Spotify or Apple Podcast. It's Houston strip clubs have gone out of business because James Harden was traded. So that it was between that, and I was going to ask you what you thought his favorite meal at strip clubs was, like maybe a quesadilla, maybe a flatbread pizza. I don't know, because I don't know what it's like in Houston. But that was just, I hope everything gets situated in Houston. And I'll still sit here and talk shit on Kevin Durant any day of the week, but that's not here nor there. Cavs got better. Houston Rockets got better. Pacers, they had to do the trade, so I'll say they got better. And Brooklyn, sure, your fans, you can go ahead and party. If you play 2K, yeah, the Brooklyn Nets got better. Other than that, they did all this work to form this great team, and I'm still going to tell you that when they get to the finals and face LeBron, it's going to be a lot of hard work for LeBron, but I'm still going to say Lakers in 5.
Yeah, I agree. Love to hear it. And, for those of you who are really confused about the strip clubs, James Harden's offseason is synonymous with going to every single strip club ever. And so that's why strip clubs in Brooklyn and New Jersey and New York, they've risen 41% since he signed yesterday. Remarkable. Just remarkable, Mitch. Just remarkable.
It is remarkable. And what's really remarkable is the fact that our Cleveland Browns are in the playoffs. And we're going to get there. We're going to have a guest join us later. If anybody has been following us, we have Nick Pedone joining us later. He hosts Pedone My Take, but that's later, Jordan. It's almost half hour. So let's just do the half hour headlines right now before we give the people what they want, and that's covering their American footballs, not soccer balls, footballs.
Love to hear it.
Jordan, where to start? Let's start in the MLB. Just one quick fact. The Cleveland Indians now have the lowest projected payroll in all of baseball at $35 million. And just for put that in perspective for people, Garrett Cole of the New York Yankees makes $36 million a year. There are now 7 players in Major League Baseball that make more than the entire Cleveland Indians payroll. I just want to throw that little fact out there because people wondered why everyone's so bitter about
That's
the Indians.
disgusting. That's just
why
disgusting.
That's not fair. But it doesn't matter. If
Like
it's
carrots and ketchup, disgusting. It's just wrong. So many levels.
Like pineapple on pizza, disgusting.
No, pineapple on pizza is actually really good. So don't ever say that again. It's actually fantastic. And everybody in the chat knows that they love pineapple on pizza.
Yeah, sure.
Love to see it.
Jordan, let's kind of stay in Ohio. Well, with an Ohio native.
Okay.
That would be former Ohio State head coach, national champion head coach, Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer and the Jacksonville Jaguars are in advanced talks, according to sources, for him to become the next head coach in Jacksonville. Contract negotiations are still being worked out, but we talked about this and it looked like it wasn't going to happen. What do you think? Is this a good hire?
I personally don't like the hire. I love Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer must really miss coaching if he wants to go back to the Jacksonville Jaguars. He already had health problems, Mitch. The NFL is more stressful. You win or you're gone after a year. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously they would give him a little more time, but I'm just trying to stress to you how stressful the NFL is. You don't get fired as a college coach after one bad year. I mean, Jim Harbaugh just signed a 5-year extension with Michigan for $4 million a year, and he's done nothing, right? He lost as many games as he won this year. Last time I checked. I don't know what their final record was. It was bad, though. I didn't even check.
It wasn't good.
All I'm saying is I don't understand why he made this move, because he makes so much money doing Fox, doing the college football. And I love him on college football. I think he adds a completely different element. He's just a really interactive coach on the breakdown before games. I'm going to really miss him. Am I surprised? Yeah, Mitch, I'm surprised.
Mm-hmm. I'm also surprised, Jordan. I don't think it's a good hire. I love Urban Meyer. There's a lot of Ohio State fans who agree this isn't a good hire. And then you have the Urban Meyer lovers that wherever he goes, I go. He's a great head coach. Well, just because you're a successful college coach doesn't mean you're going to have success in the pros, and vice versa. Jim Harbaugh, great NFL head coach, took the Niners to the Super Bowl with Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah.
Only reason he was a good college coach before that is because he had some guy named Andrew Oliver Luck. Jordan, was he pretty good?
Yeah, he was.
Oh, okay. So that's why he was a good college head coach, because since he came back to college, he's not a good head coach. You look at Nick Saban, went to the pros. It didn't work. Last time I checked, Nick Saban's either the best or second best college football coach ever, right?
Ever.
So there, and look, you have Matt Rule, who left Baylor, had 1 year at Baylor. They were average. I thought he did a pretty damn good job this year in the NFL. He wasn't a big name hire from college football. He wasn't a top 5 coach in college football. So I don't know.
We'll agree to disagree, but keep rolling. You were doing great until then. You were killing it.
You think he was a top 5 coach in college football? Matt Rule.
He was good enough that Carolina went out of their. I mean, I think he was probably the top coaching hire last year. Yeah. Who was better than him? He had to be the best coaching hire.
I'm strictly saying out of college football coaches, he's not a top 5 college football coach right now, if he was in college. Do you think he is?
Mitch, as you would say, with all disrespect, yes, he was. Baylor.
Wow.
Baylor. I guarantee you my middle school team, the Crenshaw Cougars, we were pretty good. Didn't play on the team. Watched them play, though. They were as good as some of the Baylor teams that I've watched him coach. So, yeah, I'm going to say yes. When has Baylor ever been relevant in football? Like, when's the last time you've been like, oh, no, we play the Baylor Bears? The answer is never.
Really? Not when they had RG3? They weren't relevant?
Nope. Hated to see it.
Now when they finished 5th in 2014 in the college football playoff.
They're not a historic program. They're not even a top 25 program of all time. Keep going. I'm sorry.
I'll agree with that. I'm just saying Matt Rule was not a top 5 coach in college football. That's all there was to it.
Okay.
Dan Mullen might be a better college football coach. I don't know. Either way, Urban Meyer, I don't think it's going to work. It's a lot different coaching adults than 18, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds. It's a lot different, Jordan.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll see what happens there. There's a team looking for a lot of coaches now, Jordan, and the Pittsburgh Steelers would be that team. The Steelers will not renew the contracts of offensive coordinator Randy Fitchner, offensive line coach Sean Surratt, and defensive backs coach Tom Bradley after their first-round playoff exit to the Cleveland Browns. Jordan, is it the beginning of the end in Pittsburgh?
It seemed like a really aggressive move to just, like, is Mike Tomlin just firing everybody around him? Like, I don't buy that all three of those positions need to be filled at all, unless there's things that we don't know about behind the scenes. I doubt it. We'd probably have found out by now. You know, they did go 11-0. I would put their offense struggling more on Big Ben than I would on the OC, because Big Ben is just, he's difficult to work with. Where's Le'Veon Bell at and Antonio Brown? They're playing well. They're doing all right, right? You know, everybody thought all this stuff in Pittsburgh was, you know, Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell. And don't get me wrong, they've done a lot of things that would make you think that. However, so is Big Ben. It's time for us to erase this narrative that Big Ben is this church choir boy, just obeys all the rules. He's the guy who has your back. I don't think he does. They need to get rid of Big Ben. They don't need to get rid of their OC. Big Ben needs to go first, but he won't. He'll end up there and retire there like Eli did with the Giants. I understand, but I don't like it. I like it if you're a Browns fan, but I don't like it if I'm like, it doesn't make sense to me unless there is, you know, just all kinds of stuff happening behind the scenes that we don't know about.
Yeah, I agree. I love it. I think this is the beginning of the end. And let's stay in Pittsburgh, where we know Juju Smith-Schuster and Chase Claypool, very vocal. Well, Jordan, Chase Claypool today came back on the Zone.
Again?
If you know what that is, the sports show, to double down on his comment he made Monday. Chase Claypool said, if the Browns had won with more class, then I wouldn't have been so salty. Proceeded to go on and say, they will be on the couch next Sunday, sitting right next to him after they get clapped by the Kansas City Chiefs. He said the reason that he was so upset and made the comments was because they disrespected Juju Smith-Schuster, Jordan.
Wow. Well, I have a picture for you, Mitch. Now that you said this, Google's a beautiful machine. And for those of you listening on Spotify, iTunes, what I'm going to show on the screen is Baker actually going to the Pittsburgh sideline after Pittsburgh lost, Mitch. And guess what he did? Actually, you know what? I'm not even going to grab the picture because I'm so hot right now because I didn't even know that this was said until now. It really pisses me off. But is not enough respect. You talk shit to us. We beat you humbly. We go over and we shake your hand. Your quarterback doesn't even come over and shake our hand or any of our players' hand. But you're right. No. It was the Browns. The Browns didn't handle it well. There's times to double down on things, Mitch, and there's times to just shut your mouth. And Pittsburgh just needs to shut up. You're not playing. Have you ever played Mafia before?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know, if you're the narrator and you're playing Mafia, you always have to remind people who have already got killed.
We'll see if either of us agree with Chase Claypool saying the Browns will be, quote unquote, clapped by the Kansas City Chiefs this weekend. We're about to get into that, Jordan. But first things first, Taylor Swift and Joe Alwyn were caught holding hands out in public with a special family member.
Who? You said Taylor Swift and who?
Joe Alwyn.
Who the hell is that?
I don't know, but it sounds to me like he's going to be the next victim of the next Heartbreak song by Taylor Swift. That's why I figured we needed to talk about it. If you're a guy, Jordan, and you know what Taylor Swift does, would you ever date her?
No. Is that the answer I'm supposed to? I actually like her music.
Well, I don't know.
I'm not the guy to ask about this.
Well, I just didn't know. I mean, like, if you're a single guy, yeah, Taylor Swift, maybe you think she's attractive. Personally, not my type.
I don't.
Has a lot of money. Successful. Yeah. Very successful. But, like, she has a history of, like, making her boyfriends, like, become into songs. Like, are you actually dating her, or are you just in line to become the next hit single?
Ooh.
That's something you really got to ask yourself. So, I mean, Joe Alwyn, best of luck to you, sir. I hope you don't turn into a song. If you do, at least I hope it's a banger, because Taylor Swift does release some heat, whether you want to admit it or not, guys. I'll admit it. No shame. But, yeah, they were caught in North London Public Park holding hands on a walk. So, tough. Hate to see that. And that's this afternoon's half-hour headlines. Shaun Wade just got burnt again by his DoorDash delivery guy. Man. Shaun Wade was just burnt again. That's just terrible.
If I'm Shaun Wade, I don't even go to the combine. I'm like, I can't show these guys I can't show them, like, my lack of skills anymore. Like, I have to just hide in my house.
Go to the combine. You're assuming he's going to get invited to the combine.
Well, yeah, he'll get invited to the combine.
Oh, Mitch. He's not getting invited. He's not getting invited. The only way he gets invited is if he's bringing food for everybody at the combine and leaves. That's the only way he's getting invited. Right. Shaun Wade, bro, you better come back to Ohio State if you think you're going to play.
All right, guys, we're back. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties.
Shaun Wade got pretty pissed at me, and he shut down a broadcast. So that's about the only good thing he can do. But Nick is here. If you guys remember when we had Nick on the show, it was to talk Browns and Steelers 2 weeks ago in the must-win game for the Browns. So good karma. Figured we'd bring him back and see what he has to say about the Browns traveling to Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City this weekend to take on the defending Super Bowl champs.
Excited about this game. The Buckeyes lost, Monday night, and everybody kept asking me, "Are you upset about the game?" It hurt a little bit, but the Browns are still in the playoffs, and I am going to give you the keys to how the Browns are going to make sure they stay in the playoffs this next week in Arrowhead. Let's start with be the bully. When I was growing up, boys, I got bullied a couple times. I got put in a trash can once. Got punched in the face in 6th grade. Yeah, I got bullied early on. The Browns need to be the bully early on in this game. Hit hard, swarm to the football, and honestly, I think they can be the bully because the bully for the Browns let's think about this. The Steelers have always been the big brother and the bully to the Browns, right? And so now that the Browns finally overcame beating Pittsburgh, not just beating them once, but beating them twice. They beat them twice, right? In 8 days. If they can hit them in the mouth early, I think this game's going to be a little different. I'm really interested to see how much man-to-man the Browns play versus zone. That's another thing I'm looking out for. If the Browns stay in zone as opposed to man, I think we're considerably better off. Number 2, forced turnovers. The Browns are +5 in turnover differential. I believe they're like number 8 in the NFL, which is pretty good. They had 5 turnovers last week, and, we won the game. Typically, you win the turnover margin, you win the game. And number 3, run the football. Don't lose, and I say this every time we talk about the Browns playing another team, guys. Do not lose doing something that you're not good at. Play your game, mix in the play action with the run, and run the football because you have the best backfield in football. Those are my keys that I truly believe that the Browns can beat Kansas City. I understand that there's only been 6 wildcard Super Bowl winners ever, but, step aside. Browns coming through. Might be the 7th. Just saying.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Nick, before you give us your take, you listen. We know you write for Dog Pound Daily. We know you're the host of Pedone My Take. So give us. We know Kevin Stefanski was back today. We know Joel Bitonio should be getting active. So is there anybody that we don't know about yet that is not back?
No, really just Joel Bitonio, right? That's the big one, as well as you look down the injury report that literally just dropped at like 4:30, and seeing names like Jack Conklin still not at practice isn't the most refreshing thing in the world, but hey, it's playoff time, man. And we know we suffered that hamstring injury in the win against Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, but this is the playoffs. You hope these guys can kind of tighten up the bootstraps if they're able to and go out there, even if they did have to, sit through practice throughout the week. Kevin Stefanski has talked, throughout the week, despite his return just being today. And he didn't, say anything negative to make you believe that Jack Conklin would be ruled out, as well as David Njoku hasn't practiced yet this week either, with a little bit when fit. But, outside of that, things are kind of feels crazy to say in 2020, 2021, and knock on wood, but looking up for the COVID-ridden, injury-ridden Browns who could be at full strength or at the healthiest that they've been, at least, since really opening kickoff.
And that includes the return of Denzel Ward and Kevin Johnson, correct?
Yeah. So Denzel Ward, Kevin Johnson activated, and that's going to be huge. I mean, we saw in both of the Pittsburgh games since we talked last, Robert Jackson, the undrafted free agent. He was just a liability out there, and that's really to no fault of his. That was never the spot that he should have been put in. He was just thrown to the wolves, thrown into the fire in a spot where he was supposed to be just a practice squad guy to help get through the season. I guess he did his job enough because they won the 2 games that he started at, even though it wasn't pretty. And I definitely wasn't the hugest fan of them. Obviously, the team wasn't either. They definitely brought in some insurance. Donovan Alumba, who was on the squad through training camp, he just didn't crack the final 53 roster when it came time for cuts. He is back with the Browns on the practice squad. So if something is to take another turn south and we lose some guys in that secondary, whether it be to injury, whether it be to COVID, even though I don't think Denzel and Kevin Johnson could test positive again until the Super Bowl, thanks to that 90-day window that the NFL gives the players. But Donovan Alumba is back in the building for some insurance. So maybe, quite maybe, we won't have to get tormented with Robert Jackson again.
Let's hope not, because you said it nicely, Nick. That's all I'll say. You said it very nicely about a guy who still showed up and did the best he could. And Chase Claypool called out, held Chase Claypool to 5 receptions for 59 yards in the loss on Sunday. So once again, Claypool, just tough look for him. But Nick, what are your keys for victory for the Browns on Sunday? Who do you expect to come out on top? And what are you looking for?
Yeah, so my biggest key, like Jordan talked about in his keys, is running the football. Not only because that is the Browns' strength, but in this game, your offense needs to serve as your best defense. The less that Patrick Mahomes is on the field, the better. The more times that Nick Chubb runs that ball up the middle, even if it is for just an aggravating 2-yard gain, 3-yard gain, that's okay, because what's that doing is eating a 40-second cheeseburger off that game clock, and that's less time that Patrick Mahomes can torment the Cleveland Browns. That's my first key. My second key, and I talked about it a little bit on my show last night, is for Joe Woods to let Denzel Ward stick with Tyreek Hill. Don't get caught in those goofy zones with just 2 linebackers. You need to just play a normal base defense for once this week and let the linebackers by committee do their best to equalize Travis Kelce. That's my biggest one, is if you could take Travis Kelce out of this game, then the Browns will be in a good shape, because we know Denzel Ward is going to stick to the hip of Tyreek Hill, and he's going to, participate in a track meet all game on Sunday. I'm not worried about that too much. It's a perfect matchup for Denzel, even coming off of COVID. He did say he had some symptoms when he met with the media, but they're both very similar. 2 undersized guys that are speedy. Tyreek Hill isn't going to bully him physically, and that's where Denzel Ward thrives. So that's what I'm definitely looking forward to seeing, is running the football with Nick Chubb, with Kareem Hunt, as well as Denzel Ward sticking to Tyreek Hill. I guess if I had to have a third key, it would be don't go away from what works. And despite my first key being run the football, the Browns have found success throwing the ball on 3rd down and in, short and manageable situations to make smart, safe throws, as long as they're in the middle of the field and as long as the Browns eat that clock. We want to talk so much about the turnovers. That's important. But Patrick Mahomes is very good. He won the MVP last year for a reason. He won the Super Bowl MVP last year for a very good reason. It's hard to get interceptions off of this guy, but rather if you could force him into 3 and outs, even the Browns will be in good shape, because the Chiefs should be worrying about how to stop this Browns offense as much as we're worrying about the injuries.
Yeah, and Mitch, can I add one thing? You were talking about having Denzel Ward on Tyreek Hill. That's a great point. One of the things, if you watch the Buckeye game, which I'm sure you did, is Tough Borland actually got put on an island.
Yeah.
At one point, and it's the same island that our linebackers would be on with Tyreek Hill, which, honest to God, it's about the same speed difference there was between Tough Borland for the Ohio State Buckeyes. And who caught that again? Oh, yeah, Devontae Smith. That's right. Yeah. So that's a great point. I like his own, but I feel like you said, you have to put somebody on Tyreek Hill. It's probably the smart thing. That way we don't get those mismatches on the field.
Yeah, definitely. I like a zone too, but for this game, for what the Browns defense just is right now at this stage of the rebuild, I think you got to play a little bit of man in this one, just based off the fact of you need to have the bases, your main bases covered. The Chiefs don't run the ball tremendously well, especially without Clyde Edwards-Helaire at practice today. Again, it's going to be probably a large dose of Le'Veon Bell, who we know what he is at this point of his career. So if the Browns can find a way to neutralize Travis Kelce by committee, that's my big one. That's definitely the hardest thing and the tallest task for the Browns to do on Sunday. And stick with Tyreek Hill, they'll be okay. Sammy Watkins, he's banged up too. He didn't practice today either.
Oh, the one that wants to open his mouth didn't practice today.
Did not practice today. That's correct.
Interesting. It's funny how people that want to open their mouths all of a sudden, they're a little banged up, and that's weird coming off of 3 weeks of not playing, and he still isn't ready to practice. That's just weird. I agree with everything you guys said. If the Browns run the ball, that's their best friend and the Chiefs' worst enemy. The Chiefs are 31st in the NFL in rush defense, guys. For those of you who don't know, there's 32 teams in the NFL, so that's not good. In fact, that's really bad. That's the Browns' bread and butter, and we know that. Now, I will say this. We saw what Pittsburgh did against Cleveland and really limiting the play-action bootlegs with Baker Mayfield, having T.J. Watt set to the outside to contain that. I don't think the Chiefs are going to be able to do that. So I think the passing game will be there. I personally think the Browns just played a way better defense than what they're going to face this weekend, and that's me not even looking at numbers and statistics. But, guys, let's be honest here. It's the Kansas City Chiefs we're talking about. The Kansas City Chiefs, the number 1 seeded Kansas City Chiefs, the reigning Super Bowl champions, Super Bowl MVP, the best quarterback in all of football. But my 3 keys, I'm going to go with Kansas City for how they win this game. And number 1, get the ball to Travis Kelce. The greatest year we've ever seen by a tight end. 105 catches for 1,416 yards. He's averaging 13.5 yards per catch.
That's absurd.
He's otherworldly.
Is that good?
That's very good, Mitch. That is confirmed.
Okay. Just want to check. And then Tyreek Hill is also averaging 14.7 yards per catch. They're not running these little, in and out routes of 5 yards. These guys are big plays waiting to happen every time the ball is snapped. The Browns have historically never been able to cover tight ends, no matter who we've seen. Think of all the tight ends we've seen over the years in Pittsburgh. Like Heath Miller is the first one that comes to mind. Killed the Browns. Mark Andrews right now for Baltimore is Lamar Jackson's best friend. Every time we get together, Mark Andrews finds a way to get the football. Tyler Eifert in Cincinnati, he wasn't the best, but the Browns historically don't cover tight ends. So now you take not only the best tight end in the game, but the best receiver in all of football this year, statistically, and you're going to ask the Browns to cover him. I don't know who you match up with him, because in my opinion, Mac Wilson shouldn't be on the field right now. Sione Takitaki is probably a little too slow. Nick, I don't think B.J. Goodson practiced today. If he did, it was his first day back, but he's another one. Bulletin board material. Guys, the Browns have thrived all year off bulletin board material. We just saw Juju Smith-Schuster, nameless gray faces. The Browns is the Browns. Why the hell did Odell Beckham Jr. open up his mouth today? A guy that's not even playing. And for everybody else, you don't need motivation. You're right. You don't need motivation. And I know all 3 of us have played sports at one time in our life. If somebody tells you can't do something or you're not going to do something, and I don't care if it's Jordan telling me you're not going to do a 1,000-piece puzzle, you bet your ass I'm going to attack that 1,000-piece puzzle and show you I can do it. So Odell Beckham Jr. coming out here, as minimal as it may seem to some people, saying the Browns are going to get this win on Sunday is just idiotic and unnecessary. You just saw your team benefit from another team doing that. So now you're throwing your team in there and you can't even help them. Where are you? You're in Arizona or California. You're not even with your team. Just like, come on, OBJ. Like, I love you. I hope you're doing great. I can't wait for you to be back next year because we're not trading you. I'm excited, but like, dude, come on.
I guess it's better than the alternative, though, right? You would much rather have him at least talking in support of his team than posting, subtle tweets and subtle jabs and following other players and other teams on Instagram and unfollowing the Browns on everything and deleting all his Browns pictures. I guess I would rather have that than the alternative. I'm with you though, Mitch. I think Kevin Stefanski, even since, the Odell Beckham Jr. injury in week 6, has kind of set a new precedent without Odell that we're going to just prove it on the field. You haven't heard a lot from anybody. You haven't heard much from Jarvis. You haven't heard anything from Baker all season long. So I think maybe just not being in that building got away from Odell, being out of Kevin Stefanski's reach got away from Odell. I'm not panicked too much about it. I don't think that's bulletin board because at the end of the day, he's not going to be there. Like you're either there and you're not, and Odell is not going to be in uniform for the Browns. So they have, to worry about Jarvis Landale. As some other MGK tweeted that at this point, seriously, I think he's as much of a fan right now as he is an athlete. And I don't think the Chiefs are going to see that any type of way.
Well, let's hope not. Yeah. But guys, the number one key for the Chiefs, and it's the Browns' biggest disadvantage, in my opinion. We have a great head coach in Kevin Stefanski, great first-year head coach. He has turned this franchise around and showed us what it's going to be now for years to come. But the Chiefs have a guy that's been there and done that. Yes, he only has one Super Bowl one. He just got his first one. But, guys, do you know what Andy Reid's career coaching record is off a bye?
It's very good, right?
Probably.
It's like
probably almost undefeated.
18-3 as a coach off the bye. And the Chiefs are coming off a bye. Andy Reid had watched that game against the Steelers. He is one coach that off a bye you don't want to face and get ugly fast, and the Chiefs are going to roll us.
Let's hope not.
I don't think so, man. I think it's going to need to be 3 games away from playing in the Super Bowl, for crying out loud, but that's where I'm at. I don't think it will.
Chiefs. I mean, you were already rusty. Like, Andy Reid's teams typically don't look like they looked weeks ago before a bye week. They didn't look good already. So it's not like they were blowing people out. They were winning by 3 points, 7 points. All their games were one possession. So it's, they're 15-1, but typically when we see teams that are 15-1, the point differential is staggering, right? And it's not staggering at all. They're a beatable team. And honestly, I think they're probably the easiest team left. I honest to God believe the Ravens and the Bills are playing better football, and I'm scared of them. It sounds crazy to think that we'd want to play the Kansas City Chiefs, but I think this is the Browns' best shot, to be completely honest with you. I love the Browns in this game. Love it. And I love the line. The line's 9.5. It's a lot of points.
Open to 10.
And I don't believe the Browns are going to lose by that many points. I don't think they're going to lose, period. So I think that's a good bet. If you're on the fence about the other games, I think this game is a good game to bet on.
I agree. I think this is the Browns' best matchup too, strictly because of how bad their run defense is. I'm a Browns fan, but I've also sat here, and if you know where I'm going with this. I mean, listen, if you people know, I can't say what I want to say. The Browns control it. Baker Mayfield, statistically, when it comes to QBR, has outplayed Patrick Mahomes since week 7. Baker Mayfield has thrown 1 interception since Halloween, a 19-1 touchdown to interception ratio. Baker has been playing what a number 1 pick should look like. And he's benefited off our run game. So I think the big thing for me, if you want me to sit here and tell you the Browns are going to win, they have to have Jack Conklin back, though. We need Jack Conklin. I don't trust. You guys both agree. You'd feel more comfortable with your all-pro, first-team, all-NFL right tackle Jack Conklin there instead of Kendall Lamb.
Definitely, but they're without Mitchell Schwartz too, so.
Which is a much bigger miss, right? I mean, not bigger. Yeah. I mean, it's about the same. Oh man, Mitchell Schwartz is so good.
Yeah, it's
Those
equal.
Guys are so
it's
good.
Literally exact. Yeah, well, I think it's exactly equal.
Yeah, then Myles Garrett better be lining up over the replacement. That's all I know. And we'll see if they try to triple team him like Pittsburgh did. And then our other 3 rushers will have one-on-one matchups, and we'll see what happens. But look, I'm excited. I'm living in the moment. I'm going to overanalyze every single play. Nick, I don't know what you did Sunday, but I was a nervous wreck. It was nail bite.
I was like Kevin Stefanski. I was locked in my basement by myself, pacing around like a madman. And Sunday at 3:05, I plan on doing the same exact thing. So,
yep, I'll be doing the same exact thing. And if anybody's watching and wants to text me Sunday, don't do it because I'm not going to answer you. And don't call me. The people that call me during the Browns game, why? Like, you're watching the game.
I had that happen too. I don't want to talk.
Like, no, I'll talk to Jordan. Nick, if you text me, I'll talk to you. But other people, it's like, why are you calling me right now with 5 minutes to go in the third quarter when the Browns are just letting the Steelers back in the game? Leave me alone, okay? Just stop.
Yeah, I see what happened.
Don't do it.
I'm crapping my pants over here, right?
Yeah. I'm over here getting ready to cry that the same old Browns were about to come back, but they didn't. They didn't do it. Okay. And I hope they don't do it now. I hope this is the new Browns we're going to have for the next 20 years.
Let's hope so. Here's to hoping.
Here's to hoping. Nick, thank you so much for coming back on. Thank you for giving us your opinion of what you think. Plug yourself really quick before we say goodbye.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I plug myself, man, I got to give my pick. I'm with Jordan. I'm picking the Browns to win. I have to until they show otherwise, and until your quarterback and your head coach shows otherwise, which they have not since Halloween. Like you said, Mitch, it's been a completely different football team. I cannot pick against this football team. I can't pick against them against the reigning Super Bowl champs. If they somehow get past this game, I'm not going to be able to pick against them against either the Bills or the Ravens. And God forbid if they get to the Super Bowl at that point, I'm not going to be able to pick against the Browns until they stop showing me. That's how we all went into this season, right? Was, oh, well, Kevin Stefanski needs to prove to me that he could do it before I start buying back into the Browns. Well, here we are in mid-January playing meaningful football, and now quite the opposite is accurate. I need to show I need to be shown that Kevin Stefanski and Baker Mayfield can't do it before I pick against this team. So I'm picking the Browns. You guys can follow along, watch the Browns game with me and Mitch and Jordan on Twitter at Nick Pedone 12. If you're watching us live, you see my @ right down there. I'll be active during the game. I won't be texting family members. I won't be answering the phone. So that's the one sure way to keep up with my emotions throughout the game. Like Mitch said, a bunch of good stuff. Dogpounddaily.com, Pedone My Take. Go check it all out. Thank you guys so much for having me back.
Thanks,
I'm glad I didn't screw it up too bad the first time.
Go Browns.
Go Browns.
Go Browns,
thank you, Nick.
baby. Yeah,
right.
See you guys.
All right, Nick. If you're just tuning in, well, I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. We've never had this in 16 episodes. I'm not really sure what's happening. I'm running my internet speed, and it's 600 megabytes per second. That's pretty good. So I don't know what's happening. So if you're still here, we appreciate you. We're going to keep rolling through these games. Mitch, let's keep rolling.
Yeah, let's get to it. And thank you to Nick Pedone for joining in. Really good insight there, Jordan.
Oh, incredible.
So let's start with the Saturday slate. Mm-hmm. Let's go up to Lambeau Field in Wisconsin, where the LA Rams and Aaron Donald travel to Green Bay to face the number 1 seed Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers at 4:30. Jordan, what are you looking for? Because this is going to be this has the potential to be a great game. But just want to let you know, John Wolford has been announced out after his injury in Seattle. Jared Goff will be the starting quarterback.
Yeah, that doesn't change my pick at all. I didn't even need to know that. All I needed to know that was is Aaron Rodgers playing at home? Yeah, he is.
Last time I checked, yeah.
Aaron Rodgers much better at home than on the road. I believe he's 5-6 on the road, and he's 5-3 at home. That's much better. He finally has a surrounding cast. He has a good enough defense. It's not great, Mitch, but it's good enough. He has a a guy who developed into a number 1 wide receiver, and he has other guys he can sling the ball to, and he has Aaron Jones in the backfield. Like, I understand that Aaron Donald is a monster. I get it. I watch him play. I understand that he wants to harm everybody that he goes after.
Just looks
at Mitch. And I understand that, and I get it. But Aaron Rodgers will be too much at home in Lambeau, and I like the Packers. I like them definitively, to be honest with you. The Rams are going to have a terrible time trying to move the ball. And as soon as we started this show, what did I tell you? I said Jared Goff is a liability, and that's something I've known for a long time. But since we only have 16 episodes, you can only go back so far. I said Jared Goff was a liability when he was healthy. He's hurt now.
You did. It's
so
factual.
He doesn't become an all-pro quarterback right now. He gets worse. So he goes from an average, maybe slightly below average quarterback with a ridiculously dumb contract and he's going to get worse this weekend. And honest to God, I could see the Packers blowing out the Rams regardless of what Aaron Donald throws at Aaron Rodgers. I have to go with the Cheeseheads. Got to do it.
You're absolutely correct. You have to take the Cheeseheads here. You have to take the MVP, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, listen, he's going to win the award. Mm-hmm. Almost everybody said it. Whether you agree with it or not, he's going to be your MVP this year. He is balled out, really, especially after the Packers kind of – I don't pissed him off. I would say they pissed him off by drafting Jordan Love in the draft. Jordan, I think the big thing for me to watch is not so much Aaron Donald. Does Jalen Ramsey lock down Devontae Adams?
Ooh.
Because if he does that, it's going to be interesting to see where Aaron Rodgers goes with the football. Aaron Jones, a phenomenal back out of the backfield to catch the ball from Aaron Rodgers. Robert Tonyan, great tight end. He's really improved this year. And then you have Alan Lazard and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Those are serviceable wide receivers. I mean, listen, when you look at other teams, they would be 2s and 3s on that team, maybe less. But they're big physical wide receivers. So who does Aaron Rodgers attack on that Rams defense if Ramsey is matched up with Adams? But listen, aside from who wins the game, I just want to see that. I want to see one of the best corners. Some people think he's the best against what I'll say is a top 3 wide receiver. Some people may consider Devontae Adams a top wide receiver. It's a great matchup. But listen, Jared Goff has a awful track record of playing in cold weather. It's going to be cold in Green Bay. I'm taking Aaron Rodgers. I think he realizes this is probably his best shot to win a Super Bowl now. The playoffs run through Lambeau Field, and that's what he needs. So I'm with you, Jordan. I'm taking the Green Bay Packers at home to beat the Rams. Moving on. And
we agree on something. How about that? We agree on something.
We do agree on something. So let's see. We're after the Browns. We're one for one right now. Let's see if we're going to go 2 for 2 or if we're going to go split here. Jordan, me personally, having no fan bias, I think this is the game of the weekend on Saturday night, 8:15, NBC, Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, Michelle Tafoya. The 5-seeded Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson getting his first playoff win travel to Buffalo to face Josh Allen and the red-hot Buffalo Bills, Jordan. What do you think is going to happen here? Because I personally think this is the best game all weekend.
Yeah. Mitch, you're not going to like what I have to say about this. You're not going to like it. Because you have a romantic relationship with Drew Brees that everyone knows about.
Sure.
And
what are you talking about Drew Brees?
What?
We're not even talking about Drew Brees. Why has he got to get pulled in here?
Oh, but we have to talk about Drew Brees. We have to.
Okay, then go.
We have to. Well, I guess we can get into the game of the week. Are we not talking Saints? You talking about Ravens?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I like Lamar Jackson. To be honest with you, Mitch, the Ravens are the hottest team in football. I think they're hotter than Buffalo. I think their no one talked about their defense versus the Titans last week. They played unbelievable defense. Derrick Henry didn't choke. Derrick Henry doesn't choke. Nobody who runs for over 2,000 yards in a season who ran for 1,400 yards the year before chokes. You play good defense. That's how you stop somebody like that. Ryan Tannehill, also a monster. 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. They held that team to 13 points. That is going to be what is going to stop Josh Allen from getting to the AFC title game. And it's going to be that Ravens defense. And I don't know if anybody in the playoffs has an answer for Lamar Jackson on the ground. Everybody knows he's running it, and you still can't stop him. And his wide receivers are starting to catch the ball. They're starting to peak at the right time. I actually like it's tough because, if you look back at the last 8 weeks, you want to say the Bills. And I want to say the Bills. But I really trust John Harbaugh in this spot, like big time. He has so much experience, just like you thought Andy Reid has a lot more experience than Kevin Stefanski, which he does. John Harbaugh is what is that? Oh, yeah, he's a Super Bowl coach. He's already won a Super Bowl. This guy's a big deal. He's been there for a long time. He got this ship going back in the right direction. It's going towards its destination, and that might be the Super Bowl. To be honest with you, the Ravens might be poised to go where the Browns want to go, and there's only one spot to get there, Mitch. I don't know how you feel about this game, but I like the Ravens.
Listen, I think the Ravens do have a good defense. I think you're right, and they flexed their muscles this previous Sunday in Nashville when they stopped the Titans. Derrick Henry choked. I don't care what you say. I mean, if you're that great of a player, you got to perform. Didn't perform. So let's just look at it this way. I don't think the Ravens defense is as good as you might think they are. I think what we touched on earlier, I think they took that game extremely personal because we know that Tennessee knocked the Ravens out last year in the second round of the playoffs. We know that Tennessee went in there and did the same thing to them this year and then disrespected John Harbaugh, disrespected their players, and danced on the logo, which is why you saw the Ravens do it at the end of the game when they got that interception off of the tip pass. So for me, I think there was a lot there to get fired up about. But like we said earlier, these are professional athletes. They shouldn't need extra motivation. Jordan, whether or not their defense is good, that's not the question. I personally would rather see an offensive shootout. And I think that's what we're going to get. I think we're going to get a team that runs the ball very well with their running backs, J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, Lamar Jackson, if Mark Ingram plays. Bills aren't very good at stopping the run. We saw what Jonathan Taylor did. But then let me ask you this question. Would you rather have Josh Allen throwing the ball or Ryan Tannehill?
Oh, Josh Allen. Listen, Josh Allen,
right,
for sure.
Right. I think Josh Allen definitely can expand the field more with his arm than Ryan Tannehill can. And he doesn't need the play action to succeed. Like the numbers this year show, Ryan Tannehill is one of the best quarterbacks when he uses the play action. That's another fact. It doesn't need to be, if you don't agree, go look it up. He was number 1 or number 2 in play action passing this year. Josh Allen doesn't need that. Mm-hmm. And the other element is Josh Allen's the Bills' best running back. He is. He had more rushing yards led the Bills in rushing yards. He actually outrushed Derrick Henry last weekend in the playoffs. So there's that too. I want to say the Bills, strictly because if the Browns win, I think the Browns have a better chance to beat the Bills. I don't have confidence in beating the Ravens. I just think there's that comparison that when Baker Mayfield sees the Cincinnati Bengals, it's his magic elixir. He balls out, right? I mean, when have we seen Baker have a bad game against the Bengals, minus week 17 last year when the team had given up and quit on Freddie Kitchens, which I would have too. I had this feeling that when Lamar Jackson sees the Browns, it's like his magic elixir, and we don't know how to stop him. But listen, the Browns going to get there first. The Ravens have to get there first. I think the Bills get this game done. I think Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs are rolling. They got John Brown back last week. Cole Beasley has been a monster all year. It's going to be interesting, though, to see if they can run the ball without Zach Moss. They added Devontae Freeman, like we touched on in our previous episode, which you can go back and listen to. But I like the Bills over the Ravens. So we're not going to agree here, Jordan.
No, but I will tell you the key to this game. Can Baltimore stop Josh Allen from roaming the field? Because if Josh Allen does have his way and he is able to be as mobile this week, like he was last week against Indianapolis, Baltimore is going to have a tough time. I don't believe that they're going to struggle with that, though. I believe that they're going to be able to contain Josh Allen pretty well. But, man, Indianapolis, who's a stout defense. I don't want to say a great defense, but I do want to say a very respectable defense. They couldn't contain him at all. No. Josh Allen did whatever Josh Allen wanted to do. And if he does that this Sunday, you are right. He's going to it won't be a shootout. It'll actually, well, so you won't be right. There will be a lot of points. So you'll be right about that. But it won't be a shootout. It'll be a blowout. If they can't stop Josh Allen on the ground, but I think they will. That's why I like the Ravens in this game, and I actually like it low scoring. I'm not sure what the over-under is, but that is something that I'm going to check out because that might be a bet.
I think you're right, though. I think if the Ravens can't contain Josh Allen and he gets to extend plays with his feet, whether that's escaping out of the pocket, throwing on the run, which he is phenomenal at, or running the football. I mean, listen, a 6'6" quarterback with that type of athleticism, I don't want to get in front of that. I mean, we've seen him put some guys in the dirt, and it doesn't look like it's comfortable. It doesn't look fun. But if the Bills get a lead, we've seen Baltimore before. They're not a team built for a comeback. If they get down by 2+ touchdowns and time isn't on their side, Jordan, we've seen the Ravens implode. So right now, Buffalo's best chance is score and get a 2-score lead later in the game, and that might be all you need because we've seen the Ravens implode before. But that is Saturday night at 8:15 on NBC, Jordan. We touched on our Browns. We can touch on it again after we preview the 6:40 p.m. kickoff in the NFC between the number 5 seed Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the number 2 seed New Orleans Saints, the AARP Bowl between the two oldest quarterbacks in all the NFL. Jordan, I already know where you're going to take this, but go ahead.
You know, there were some comments that popped up in the chat earlier that addressed Drew Brees' arm. But since we've had some technical difficulty through this episode, I am going to explain it this way. Have you ever watched Storage Wars before?
Oh, yep.
What do you do at Storage Wars? You go to storage bins that have not been paid, and you bid on them, right?
Yep.
And some time ago, New Orleans took a risk on a guy in a storage bin out of San Diego. He had shoulder surgery. They were like, hey, we're going to take this guy anyways. And the Saints got really lucky. They dusted off something out of the storage bin, and that item that they found from the container they bought was Drew Brees. Now, Drew Brees, when they got him, worked to perfection. He's been working for years. But, you know, you got to use product out of that storage bin. And that used product has thrown for a lot of yards, a lot of touchdowns, a lot of interceptions, a lot of first downs. That item even won a Super Bowl. But let me tell you what, Drew Brees can no longer throw the deep ball. Drew Brees can no longer make the passes that you need to make to beat the teams you need to beat to advance in the playoffs. Drew Brees is also playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the third straight time. Although New Orleans defense is rolling, I don't trust Drew Brees in the spot because, I mean, look at the last 8 weeks for Drew Brees. He's been beat up. He's been sitting on the sideline. He just came in, last week? That's not Drew Brees' fault. That's not Drew Brees' fault at all. Football is a violent sport. You get hurt all the time. Nobody's healthy at this time in the year. But I will tell you who's healthier than the Saints, and that's Tampa Bay. Not only do I not trust Drew Brees' arm, but I trust Tom Brady's arm. And I trust Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski. I don't necessarily trust Bruce Arians. I'm picking Tampa to win this game, but not make it to the Super Bowl. But Tampa Bay will win this game. And Drew Brees, this will be his last season, and we'll salute to probably a top 5 quarterback of all time. So let's do this for Drew Brees, everybody. Let's go ahead and give Drew Brees a round of applause for a career well played, but one that's going to end this weekend. Thank you, Drew. We appreciate your contribution. We wish you could continue to contribute, but you can't. You're old. You're an old item out of a storage bin that used to work, but doesn't work really well anymore.
You done?
I am, actually. I am done. That's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. I wrote it down and everything, rehearsed it in the mirror, called my mom, said, Mom, this is what I'm going to say. I'm done completely. All you.
And I heard your mom hung up because did you notice how I didn't clap to congratulate Drew Brees on a great career? Because his career's not over this Sunday. Because Drew Brees and the Saints are going to do what they did to the Buccaneers already this year twice. They're going to beat them again. The Saints defense, we'll take it away from Drew Brees, just for you. The Saints defense is the best defense remaining, top to bottom, in the NFC. All right, maybe the Rams have more players you know by name. Saints have a better defense top to bottom. They have the corners and the safeties to contain the weapons Tom Brady has. Listen, Tampa Bay can't run the ball at all.
To contain the weapons Tom Brady has? You could take Jordan, the best defensive players of all time in their peak, and you take these players in their peak, and it wouldn't be comparable. It wouldn't be comparable.
They already stopped him twice this year, so I don't know what you think is going to happen now. And Bruce Arians, we know, doesn't make a whole lot of adjustments. So, listen, Drew Brees isn't going to be asked to do a whole lot. But this whole notion that Drew Brees can't throw the ball deep, Jordan, I sent you a video of his deep balls from 2 years ago because apparently this argument you have has been going on for multiple years now. And then you discredited that video. But you didn't acknowledge the video I also sent you today that was Drew Brees throwing a deep ball this year when he did play before he got hurt. Like the 47-yard dime to Emmanuel Sanders. That's actually considered a deep pass. Anything over 30 yards is. Okay. So he can still throw the deep ball when he wants. His favorite weapons back, Michael Thomas, scored a touchdown last week, not on a slant. People think he's a slant boy. Listen, the Saints are going to win this game as long as one guy doesn't get in the way. And the thing is, that one guy is probably going to get in the way, and his name is Taysom Hill. If Taysom Hill enters this game to throw a damn pass, the Saints won't win. But I'm ready for Taysom Hill to come in and fumble the ball twice or throw an interception, and Drew Brees could have a perfect passer rating and score every time they touch the ball. It'll be his fault still. It's okay. It'll be Drew Brees' fault that Mike Evans catches a ball over 4 defenders and scores with 2 seconds left. I'm ready for it. But it's not going to happen. The Saints are winning this game. We are inevitably going to get a Drew Brees versus Aaron Rodgers NFC championship. Listen, the Saints just have too much right now. If everybody's healthy, which they are, Jared Cook, Michael Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, Alvin Kamara, Latavius Murray, Drew Brees can pick his spots to expose the weak Buccaneers defense that you and I have talked about all year. They aren't what people thought they were. They are a bad defense.
I wouldn't say bad. I would say average. They have good days. They have bad days. That's an average NFL team.
When they have their bad days, they're very bad, though, as we've seen in some games this year. It's not like, they lost by a score. It's, they imploded.
Well, yeah.
Drew Brees will pick them apart. He doesn't have to throw the deep ball this week. He's going to take what the defense gives him. And the Saints are going to march on. They're going to keep on marching on, and they're going to march all the way to Lambeau. Or, hey, maybe you and I are wrong and the Packers don't win, and maybe the Rams come visiting again. But as far as I know, Drew Brees and the Saints are beating Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. And if Drew Brees is old, what's that make Tom Brady, by the way? Tom Brady's 4 years older than him. So, I mean, like,
Tom
Brady's
had a much better season than Drew Brees.
Well, Drew Brees has been out half the year.
Oh, is that Tom Brady's fault? Oh,
no, but
poor Drew. I'm so sorry.
You just said it wasn't Drew Brees. How are you going to say Drew Brees is old if Tom Brady's 4 years older? I mean, you got to acknowledge that.
But he's not playing as old as Drew Brees. Just because you're the same age doesn't mean you play the same. I mean, we saw Peyton Manning. Honest to God, and I mean this sincerely. I could have played, like, my arm is good enough to have played for the Denver Broncos when they won the Super Bowl with Peyton Manning. He was horrendous. Horrendous. Not everybody ages the same. Are you saying, I mean, aren't there other players the same age as LeBron? They play the same? No. Not everybody ages the same. Okay? Tom Brady, fountain of youth. TB12, baby. Are you serious?
That has nothing to do with what I brought up. I'm just saying he's 4 years older than Drew Brees. You're sitting here saying Drew Brees is old.
Yes.
43 for an NFL quarterback is old, no matter what, no matter how great he looks.
Drew Brees has had past injuries that Tom Brady hasn't had. He's older. You don't. Just because you're older, doesn't mean that you're more beat up than anybody else. You know, there's this big thing in the world. This has always bothered me because I've worked in a medical facility for so many years, right? Physical therapy, all that stuff. People always say to me, you shouldn't be hurting. You're too young to hurt. And I hate that because the human body is the human body. You can have aches and pains at any time, no matter how old you are. My mom's 64. She's run 16 marathons. She'll continue to run more. I don't care that Tom Brady's older than Drew Brees, Mitch. I don't care. He's playing better football. That's what I care about. I don't care if his arms are longer, his feet are longer, if he has longer toenails. I don't care if he plays Uno on Saturdays with his grandma. All I care is that Tom Brady's playing better than Drew Brees. Drew Brees is only playing the way he's playing because he's getting older. And that's why I bring up that fact. That's why I bring that up. I don't bring it up to compare those. I get what you're saying, but you're wrong, and you're gonna cry in your basement while you watch Drew Brees play his last football game, and I will be the one to call you to just hold you tight because I love you. Just because I love you, I wouldn't do it if I didn't love you.
Listen, the Browns play before that. There's a chance I don't even watch that game. There's a chance I don't even want to talk. I don't even want to know what football is for a week after that.
That's true.
So it's not happening though. It's not going to happen. But I just need you to make it known. So if I tagged you in the video today, the Minnesota Vikings won with 6 seconds left, and Drew Brees couldn't make the tackle because I didn't realize he played safety when Stephon Diggs scored the touchdown. So if Drew Brees shows up this weekend and balls, and it falls on the Saints defense, is it still Drew Brees' fault?
Do you know how many points the Saints scored in that game?
Yeah, Jordan.
Do you know how many?
Yeah, 24. 20, yeah.
24. When you get into the playoffs, might not be enough. Might have to score more. If you're a top 5 quarterback of all time, maybe you shouldn't get ousted in the playoffs 3 years in a row. Maybe you shouldn't. I don't know.
Tom Brady got ousted last year because he threw a pick 6?
Is it just all bad luck? Why doesn't that bad luck happen to Tom Brady? Why is it just Drew Brees in the first round?
First off, it wasn't even the first round. Like that's another part that you just ignore completely.
Not some of them were. Well, not this one. Yes, I'm talking about before this year.
Before the Rams NFC Championship,
Vikings.
That was the divisional round.
It was their first game. They had a bye.
That's the divisional round. Still, they had a bye.
Yeah, that would have been their first game. The Saints had a bye last year. 2 years ago when they did that. Anywho, let's keep going. I'm sorry. We'll address this. We'll fact check this, and we'll bring this up next week. I'll put it.
We will fact check. I just don't understand that. Apparently, you want them to score on every possession. Is that what you want?
I want you to score enough to win. That's what I want. I like my football players to score enough to win. Not 100 points, not 50 points, just enough to win. 24 is not enough.
Drew Brees did that. You have to. Hey, it's a team game, right? Is football a team game?
Sometimes.
Oh, okay. Only sometimes for your sake of this argument. Okay. Drew Brees did enough to put his team in the position to win.
Yeah, he did.
And his defense couldn't do it.
No,
just like the defense in New England has helped Tom Brady on days he couldn't do it. That's all there is to it.
All right.
That's all there is to it. Just like the defense in Denver carried Peyton Manning to a Super Bowl.
It did. No, you're 100% right.
It's a team game. It can't all be on Drew Brees. He did what he needed to do. Saints are going to roll. Not roll, but Saints are going to win. I mean, it's inevitable.
All right.
I'm excited. I'm excited for Tuesday's episode already. So, back to the Browns, or are we good with the Browns? Do you have anything else you want to touch on with our Cleveland Browns?
I'm good with the Browns. We got to get close to the who has bigger balls, because I'm going to have to piece off everybody watching. I'm going to have to piece all 4 or 5 videos together from whatever just happened. That was weird. It was weird. Hey, if you're still with us, please like and subscribe. We appreciate you. That helps us out so we can get this show out to more people, by the way. So we appreciate you. But I'm good with the Browns, Mitch. I'm good.
I hope the Browns win, but like I said, I'm taking the Chiefs. And if you know, you're welcome. That's all I can say. Jordan knows. Jordan knows. And what I know, what Jordan knows, and what people that are still watching are probably asking themselves,
who has bigger balls?
I hit that button a little too quick.
That was perfect. Perfect.
Who has bigger balls, Mitch? Is it James Harden there on the left? Is it not just James Harden? He is on the left. Is it the Brooklyn Nets who decided to take a massive gamble in ship pieces away? I mean, we're not going to go through all that again. Is it the Brooklyn Nets, or is it Scott Anthony Mesa? This gentleman on the right there, that's his mugshot, guys. You know why that's his mugshot? Because he tried to light his house on fire this week in Florida. But he was unsuccessful, Mitch, because he lit himself on fire. So not only was he unsuccessful at lighting his house on fire, but he lit himself on fire. And then he had to go to the hospital because he has burn marks all over his body. So who has bigger balls? Is it the Brooklyn Nets, or is it Scott Anthony Mesa who lit himself on fire?
I mean, you only get one life to live, so I guess it'd be Scott Anthony Mesa. I'd like to know, maybe we'll have to do this and get back to our listeners. I'd like to know the context. Why was he trying to burn down his house? I don't
know.
I don't understand what he was thinking there. But yeah, he has bigger balls because, Jordan, we've seen this type of stuff happen in the NBA before. Players run the league and owners do what they need to do to win, to put fans in the stadium. And so Scott Anthony Mesa, you, sir, have some big cojones.
I do. Yeah, I'm going to go with Scott Anthony Mesa too. Yeah. There it is.
Jordan, I think before we go, we need to update our listeners on what we came to conclusion for the other day with the Who Has Bigger Balls segment.
Oh.
And this idea was a phenomenal idea sent in by listener Tyler Egan. Loyal listener of the show, big fan of the show, Drew Brees hater for no reason. He recommended that we have a monthly Who Has Bigger Balls tournament. We take the winner of every episode and put them together at the month in a bracket where we let the listeners get a vote on Twitter. We post it in the poll on Twitter. You and I will get a vote. Maybe some people that listen are more dedicated to the show or have been on the show get a vote as well. That means a little more than just one. So we thought that was a great idea. So at the end of each month, we're going to compile all the winners, and it will be starting this month of January, although some people might think Kyrie Irving's already won. But we'll let you guys decide. And then we'll take the winner of each month at the end of the year and see who had biggest balls for the entire year on our show. We think it's a great way to engage everyone. And I think it really gets us to the first award winner that we're going to have in the Cover Your Balls live show history of who really has had the biggest balls in our show. So that's something to look forward to, something we were excited about. So thank you, Tyler, for that. But guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for letting us cover your balls. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on YouTube. Subscribe to us. Facebook Live. Apple Podcast. Spotify. And hey, you guys have a great weekend. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Mitch Jordan.
I'm Jordan McKelly.
And we will see you on Tuesday at 4 p.m. or wherever you're listening.
Later. For real this time.